Hey guys, this is Tolly and welcome to Let's Build a JRPG Part 20. I believe we should be good on all cylinders. Yep, we're running. Okay, so it has been a little bit. About 2 months since we checked in with the project. Some stuff has been happening, quite a bit of stuff. I will cover most of that in more detail in, honestly, a pre-recorded video I'd like to do at some point. But for today, I mostly just want to jump in and just take a look at some stuff I want to refactor. There's a couple small projects in terms of code that I'd like to do. I know what they are going into it, so there shouldn't be a lot of necessarily downtime of figuring these things out. The game has changed a little bit since the last time we saw it. Basically, we are moving apace with the art assets. I think last time you guys saw it was with the isometric tiles being used as a background. Since then, Drixie's been doing some concept work on some of the background pieces. So those are kind of the most obvious visual things. But the thing that I've been working on recently the last few weeks, hey Red Yoshi on the YouTube side, good to see you, is I've been working on trying to get this like elemental meter stuff in the bottom left. And hello to Dusted Ham on Twitch. We basically have it now set up so that when we do an attack, it'll do like a little particle effect and it'll go down to these meters. So I use Thunder, it filled in this meter, which is Thunder is being transitioned to Shadow, but not all of the design data has been renamed yet. And then he used a fire attack, which then moved down to this meter here. And then we can use skills that this is a minusing attack. I'm still not sold on all the UI of this, but it's starting to get there in terms of at least telling you the functionality. But this attack consumes fire, so it'll pull the particle up and then we'll do the attack. Again, generating and consuming. And so some of this is starting to feel at least somewhat clear on what these skills are doing. I'm starting to feel a little bit more like you can read what's happening. Because for a long time there, the generation of the actual elements was being lost a little bit. Like here we saw that he consumed fire to do a flame slash, and like we're starting to see them actually interact. Whereas before we had this particle moving back and forth, the numbers were just ticking, I think, in the last stream you guys saw. And it just wasn't clear enough. But in the same vein, the next thing I wanted to do along this lines was I actually want to show what the enemies are going to do on the turn order. This is causing a problem. Primarily because our turn order code is garbage, and I want to change it. What's happening right now is every time a character gets a turn, we regenerate the current turn order. So when we perform this attack, and then after this character goes, when the new set of 4 transfers over, so this is now this turn, when this red character takes his turn, we delete these 3 objects and then move the yellow one to be the active one and regenerate these 2 gray objects. That's what happens to this UI up here. What that means, hey Kazukish on Twitch side, welcome to the stream. What this means is because these are getting regenerated, if I want to tack on some sort of indicator on here to say, hey, this character plans to use fire, or this character plans to consume fire, I basically want to have the exact same icons we show in this menu showing for the enemies so that you can get an idea of what the enemy is going to do when he takes his turn. But because we delete these and regenerate them every time someone takes an action, we'd have to constantly be rebuilding them to check on the AI enemies to see what exactly they plan to do. And it's just not ideal in a lot of ways. I don't think we should be regenerating these. We should probably just be removing one from the queue and realigning them. So that's part of the things I want to look at today. The other thing I want to look at is right now, this unit configuration is handled a bit sloppily, and it causes some issues where if the companion dies, we'll still have the companion's actions here on this. The grayed out ones, the slightly grayed out ones are actually the companion's ability. So if I attack with this slightly gray one, the companion is the one who does the attack and switches to the front row. But if that companion was to die, then his actions still remain in the menu. And that's because of some clunkiness I'll get into later, but that's the other thing I'd like to tackle in this stream if we get time. So number 1, I'd like to refactor the turn order. Number 2, I'd like to refactor the way that we handle the doubling of 2 units. I think that's primarily it. I've got a couple people on stream watching, so I think we should be good on audio and everything, so let's just dive into it. Although I've done the intro, so at this point, if audio was garbage, I mean, the whole video is scrapped. So diving into it. So I have a bit of an idea of what I want to do here. I want to switch scenes so we don't have to enter into the combat scene from the sewers every time. So let's go change ourselves to the combat scene. So let's take a look at where a turn order is actually handled right now. I think that's the first step that we need to clean up, because I think, yeah, turn order right now, we have a reference to the active turn order, the active unit view, which is basically this box. There is no other audio. That's a good point. Normally I have been throwing on one of the sound effects in the background as kind of a generic background so that it's not just my voice. I forgot to do that. It's been a couple months since the last stream, and I've forgotten how to do the things. Can I just go most recent? Open most recent. This looks to be the last one we played. And that looks like it'll loop forever. Okay, welcome to the loop. If it gets annoying, people let me know. Alright, so we've got Combat Character Manager, holding references to the UI elements that we populate up here. But the Combat Manager shouldn't really be handling turn order. Ideally, we should have a proper turn order manager. Apparently, we need to recover some stuff on unit. Seems reasonable. How's everyone been doing? It's been like I said, a few months since the last stream. Everyone having a good life, having a good times. While we wait for Visual Studio and Unity to decide to wake up. There we go. Dustin Ham's doing all right. Good to hear. New face, new name. Don't recognize it anyways. So I guess step one is this whole turn order logic that's being handled by Combat Manager. We should create a new manager that handles that, so that we can have a little bit more fine control. Thanks, Kazukish. Says work is crap, weather is getting cold. Shrugs, at least you're streaming. And Dustin Ham says has watched some old VODs but never live. Well, welcome. Okay, so yeah, so this Combat Manager, right now we have this concept of a turn order. Let's take a quick look at how we regenerate. So basically, we check to see if it's a turn, if it's a character's action is ready. So if the current active unit is null, which means we finished resolving a unit, then we are going to check if the turn order is complete, or the round is complete. And if so, which is just checking to see if turn order in this object is equal to 0, as in we have nothing left in it, then we copy the turn, or sorry, I should say the round. We copy the round, the next round, into the current round. We generate a new round based off of the units that we have in the game. So this units for turn order is just all the units that are currently available. And then we update the next view. And we send off a notification to say that we're starting the round. Okay, and then once whether or not this is necessary, we generate the new round if need be. Otherwise, we are just getting the first unit in the round, setting it to current, and then we are sending a notification that this character has started their turn, and then we update the current view and the active unit view. So this is saying, hey, this is the current unit. Hey, this is what the current round looks like. So if we go into here, yeah, so this is where we're actually doing the logic. So we're actually getting the round icon. We're calling terminate, which is doing some cleanup logic of setting the unit to null because these are pooled objects now. And we deallocate the round icon. And then we go through all the turn order objects and we allocate a new round icon. And then we do a addressable sprite load and set the resulting sprite as the portrait and the highlight. Okay. So this is the problem, It's that these views here are regenerating. And we probably should instead not delete everything, but handle this logic differently. Okay, so this is the spot we need to refactor primarily, but for cleanliness, I'm also going to go back and I'm going to rip out the turn order stuff from Combat Character Manager and put it into its own manager, because I don't think this logic should be shared here anymore. So let's take a look here. Let's just hit Control D to duplicate this object. Visual Studio decided it wants to show me the script even though I haven't finished editing it yet. Okay. Turn Order Manager. I guess I should be using the same terminology. Round Manager? It's kind of both. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to call it Turn Order Manager, because technically we have rounds, but the rounds are managing turn orders. At the root, really, this thing to me is a Turn Order Manager. And then we're going to duplicate this object. We're going to also name it Turn Order. We're going to remove... can we do a replace? We can't just replace and keep the variables. That's a shame. Okay, now it wants me to rename this so that it doesn't have two of the same objects. And basically, I'm just going to do this the easy way, where I'm going to rip out the logic from both of them that they don't need. Okay, and it doesn't like that there's two versions of this. So if we go back to Combat Manager, we're going to remove the excess classes. Let's just start ripping. So we're going to get rid of this from here. We're also going to remove the concept of turn views, turn orders, current active unit, if unit is ready. We don't have ATB anymore, so this shouldn't be used. Yeah, so this can just be removed from this class because we don't use it anymore. Here's a different question I maybe should have started with. What exactly does Combat Character Manager do? What is this class's purpose? Is this class primarily just handling turn order anyways? Technically in charge of getting the units, which apparently isn't used, because we've been refactoring stuff as we go through the code. We don't use animator anymore. Get random target. This is used. Okay. The enemies will choose a random hero through this class by getting the units for turn order, and we'll either get it will get whoever's in the front row to target. And it gets a random target. Okay. So this class is in charge of handling the units. It looks like it's also in charge of handling the target selection logic. On death notification. It's also in charge of handling units dying. This is part of the code I want to clean up after we finish turn order cleanup. Okay, so essentially, wait for character to have a turn. Okay, so this thing is working in conjunction to activate units to give them the menu so that they can take actions. And it's activating the turn order. And it's getting the random list of units. And it's handling unit death, which has to do with turn order. So in reality, at some point, we stripped out Combat Character Manager to the point where it basically just is a turn order manager. Huh. Okay. Okay. Sorry. I didn't realize this until I dug into here, but really this thing has been reduced down to the form of just handling turn order. Okay. Well, now I'm not at a loss, but I'm less confident. Also, we could be zoomed in more so that you guys could read the text a little better. If anyone's actually following along completely. I know some of this is super dry. I know that this isn't the original content that some of you guys signed up so many years ago for, but this is where my head's at. And if I'm going to stream, sadly, this is what I want to do. Okay. So I think we don't need a turn order manager. What we need to do is I need to either rename Combat Character Manager, or I need to just accept that the Combat Character Manager is turn order, and it just has a bad name. Dustin Ham says he's here for the dev stuff. Good to hear. It's good to know people are here for the dev stuff, and that I'm not talking into the void. And for those who are here who aren't here for the dev stuff, I also appreciate your support, and I do appreciate it. And I will get back to regular video games at some point. Probably when I finish this video game, then I'll do a playthrough of it. So I think I'm going to leave this. I'm actually going to leave it, but we're going to try and clean it up. Still. So this thing here is handling the death logic here. Let's just get a handle on what this class is doing. So this is handling death notifications, and death notifications are handling removing units from the turn order, basically. Remove unit from turn order. This section is about getting a random unit. So this is, excuse me, get target AI uses to grab valid enemy target or hero target. So I do think I would like to remove this at some point. This is a candidate for refactor, not for this stream, but I think this could be instead send notification asking for valid targets and units respond. So I think they could send out a message, basically like an email or a letter, or however you want to think about event systems. But basically the enemies could, instead of calling directly to the singleton, could just go, hey, valid targets, I'm attacking all who are of target alliance this, and then all units that are of that valid target just respond going, I'm of that target. We could even have it inside of the alliance component that handles listening for that event. Potentially. Okay. So that's a potential refactor. Disable valid unit selectors. So this is, again, similarly, we're using a singleton to access all of the units, essentially, and then to turn off all of their selectors. Again, I think this could be the exact same thing. I think we could send a notification to do this instead of having to directly have to have this unit manager handling it, so that if we add or remove units in a different way, like, we shouldn't have to have one person managing every single piece of information. I want to change this. So send notification, disable selectors. This is turning off buttons for cursor selection, and send notification to do this instead would be better, I think. Okay, this is the same logic. So both of these do the same thing. That one is enabling the selectors and one is disabling the selectors, and I think this could be done with events. Okay, now we get into the turn order stuff. So here is where we handle... Apparently we also initialize the victory manager. It's a bit odd. We handle initializing the character loader, and then we do the turn order stuff. This is where we actually load the characters, right? Which is the original purpose of this class. So this is the one last piece that this class was really here for, and kind of these functions here. This get target, and the disablers. Okay. And this is just awful. Okay. This is UI related. This is units we've spawned. This is no longer used. Actually, this is a good call. We should just check to see if any of these variables are no longer in use. I don't think we need this bool. This bool was for when we had units gaining ATB points, and once they had a full bar of ATB, then they could take an action. But now, if there's a current active unit, then we have a current active unit. So I think instead, this should just be... Let's try this, but I have a gut feel that current active unit does not equal null, means that there's a current active unit is ready for action. And then we don't need this variable, which means we can remove it from up here. Does that cause any major errors in the system? No? Does it work? Does the actual combat still function? One thing I forgot to mention at the start of this stream, but this stream is also slightly special. I was reminded by the slowness. This will be the last stream for this PC. I've been using the same PC for about 10 years now, since the founding of this channel, almost immediately after... Yeah, it's new PC time, Dusted Ham. That didn't work. That caused a problem. I have to figure out what that problem was. But yeah, this PC is finally being put to bed. I've upgraded the graphics card probably about 3-4 years ago to a 980 from a 480, which is what it was originally in 2010. And I basically haven't done much else to it. Maybe reformatted it and put new SSD drives instead of a hard drive in here and stuff, but like, it's done. And probably the next time I stream, hopefully, fingers crossed, it will be in a new beefier machine, which can hopefully handle streaming and game development a little bit more easily. Honestly, the primary factor for me getting it up and running is for a little bit easier dev flow. Okay, so my gut was wrong here. Why was my gut wrong? Get if is character action ready. This is wrong because this is always true. Right. Okay, I see the problem. So the issue is that I need this to toggle on and off. Because once it's a current active unit, we continue to get into the state multiple times, but we should transition out of this state before we update a second time, would be my thinking. Why do we... Because it was basically continuously moving through the units without ever actually getting to ability unit select. Or was it... This checks, and only if it's equal to null do we move on. And the only way that we get to null is if we've performed an action, which happens at the end of resolve effect. Interesting. What a small change had such a huge ripple effect. So somewhere else, something is relying on that unit variable, that bool. What am I missing? What am I missing? What did we change? We specifically just changed it so that there wasn't a need for... Oh, I lost my changes. Source tree to the rescue. Oh, everything's opening. See, this is exactly why you have to go, PC. I'm so sorry. It's been an amazing 10 years. But just... everything is happening at once and not on purpose. Okay, so we set it to Thief. And then we go into the ability select menu state. We change state to here. We wait for an ability button to be pressed. Okay, so nothing should happen until we hit an ability. We're hitting more breakpoints. It's unfortunate. Okay. Okay, so here we have the menu up. We are on the update state. That makes sense. And we can perform an action. Okay. So it looks like it's working fine then. So what happened the first time we ran it that everything busted? Okay, let's stop the debugger. Maybe the debugger is helping it somehow. Let's just hit run. Some sort of race condition, maybe? Then if we slow down the processing time, it doesn't happen? Now it begins. So it was fine for a second, and then all of a sudden it just started looping. So if we attach the debugger now, debugger is attached. We are going line by line through the code, but it is not stopping. If I deattach, or if I remove the debugger, it immediately starts moving again. Fun! And the actual error we're getting is that something is null, likely the current ability. So somehow we are transitioning to the next action. Why do you do this to me, state machine? Interesting. Okay, let's take this from a different approach. If we go to the state stuff, specifically weight, and we put a debug.log here, are we hitting this spot every time? So this should output information to the console every time that we get into the, hey, we're choosing a new character who's a hero. And it should be transitioning to the ability select state. This isn't even the thing I want to do today. I'm literally just trying to clean up like one bool that I think is unnecessary in the system because we don't have ATB system anymore. We have turn order, and the whole system is just breaking down because of that. Which is an indication of why we need to be doing this. So we're not hitting that message multiple times. So technically we changed ability states, but we had the error before that. How are we entering into the display name? I see. Okay. So we have two different state machines for our system. Let's open up a infograph. Give me 2 seconds to pull this up. Is this the one? It is not. There it is, states. Okay. Okay, so the way our system works is we initialize the UI state, we wait for the active character, we do ability selection, we do target selection, we ability sequence manager, wait for ability, display the name, yada yada yada, wait for the ability. What seems to be happening is that inside of wait for ability, after we made our change, we now always have an ability sequence. But the ability ID is -1. So this ability sequence manager, ability sequence manager instance, has 247 ability sequences. So something is adding a sequence now. And that sequence gets added when we hit target pressed, or if it's an enemy. Interesting. If it's an enemy's turn, when we come into this logic, we don't change states. We instead kick off an enemy attack. I see. This current active units okay, let's take a look at the original code. If we take a look at the original code, we would get the active unit and then set it to false. So we would trigger the flag once we got it once, meaning that we couldn't get back into the function here until we had gone through and selected another unit. And for the enemies, when the enemies take their turns in the state machine logic, we go wait for unit, and the enemy logic actually has a separate set of arrows in which it immediately goes directly here and then just sits in this state until this is completed. Because once this is completed, the wait for sequence to complete action actually calls back to the combat character manager to let it know that a new unit has been selected. This state machine changed when I refactored it a little while ago. And this is now how it operates. So the problem is actually that we need an AI ability selection state. Wow. Okay, that took a bit to get to. So we shouldn't be just sitting here waiting for this, I don't think. Where do we transition back to this state? When we select a target. Or when we init for the very first time. Okay. So as soon as we press the target button, we go back. I think the problem is that when this was an ATB system, this made sense. But now that we're working within the logic of this being a linear, you take a turn, and a turn involves selecting abilities, sending off the ability sequence, and then performing these actions. It's really one state machine at this point with one continuous set of states that we move through. But when we were using ATB, we wanted to be able to have characters queue up multiple abilities, which meant we need an ability sequence manager, and we needed the actual abilities to play independent of the actual selection and pushing of abilities. And we've tried to hack the two state machines together in such a way that they function. But in reality, we just sit here, idling, waiting for the next active character if it's an enemy, or if it was a hero, we just stay in this state, which is fine as long as we do this weird bool check, which I just removed like 30 minutes ago. Huh. So that's bad. I've gained a bunch of insight into the way this code is written, and I think I've highlighted the fact that we had started with an ATB system and transitioned into turn-based is causing issues with the dual state machines. Having a state machine for the UI and having a state machine for the actual action feels a bit off. Now, I think legitimately the fix is, for now, to undo all that work I just did, or to put back in the original code. We'll keep the bool, but this is something I'm going to add to my backlog of things that I want to fix, because this was not my intent today to fix this. But I think there is a real case for potentially refactoring the state machine logic so that it's one state machine. The nice thing about leaving it as the way it is it allows us flexibility to have multiple queued up abilities in the system. So I like the fact that we can queue up multiple abilities and they can play out, and then once all those abilities are done, then we could move on. There's something here that I think could be restructured to still work. And rather than just tear it all up and make it one state machine, I think I want to give it some further thought. But I've found the problem and The solution is to just go back to what we had before. Just leave it like this. For now. Now, if I can get to the actual issue at hand, that would be good. So let's actually think about it. So I'm trying to work through exactly what Combat Character Manager does in order to better understand how I want to refactor it. I felt so confident going into the stream, guys. I really thought I knew what I wanted to do, and I was going to come in with scalpel precision to just like refactor this code. And every time you come into it and you're like, you know what? I have no idea what I'm doing. Still busted? Oh, I see why. I didn't add back one more variable. I actually need to set is character action ready to true as well. Right here. There we go. Now I've put it back to the way it was before I messed with it. Yes to all. Okay. So turn order wise, we get this action. This thing is necessary for the time being because if we try and remove it, everything breaks. We need it to be a one-time toggle. You get it, and then we set it to false at the same time. The perform action is essentially getting called at the very end of resolving an effect. So this thing is basically saying, okay, now pick a new unit. And this is getting called on update every frame. So this can be changed, I think. So instead of calling perform action, I think we just need to call this check. I think this is the change I want. So basically, once we finish resolving an effect, we select the next unit in turn order, which is basically just setting the next current active unit, saying that unit is now ready, and then the UI state machine will handle the rest. Okay. Let's see if we can break everything thoroughly again. Don't want you here, source tree. Go away for now. Everything's popping up again. Let's... Okay, that fails. Gonna add some breakpoints. I'm guessing it's because we added the select next turn unit in turn order to the init function instead of inside update, and there's some sort of issue with calling it that soon. That's my initial assumption. So we added some breakpoints, and let's see what happens. Okay, so we're loading all the units. All the units are loaded. We are now going to select the next unit in turn order. The round is not complete. We have all set up, and we have unit is ready for action. And then we are getting that unit is ready for action inside of the state machine, which is now getting the current selected unit, which is a guard. And then we are moving on to the ability selection. Okay, cool. That makes sense. My input is broken. I'm going to guess that's just because of the state machine. Okay, so more likely the first time we ran it, it broke was because it was choosing an enemy as the first unit. That's probably the break. No, he attacked. Okay, that worked fine. So he took an action, but then nothing happened after that. Right, because now we no longer care if the unit is null, because perform action used to set it to null, so when we got back here the second time, it was still null. So now, instead of checking null, we just want to update the unit. We don't care whether or not the unit is null, with none of that stuff. We just, every time we call select next unit, just get the next unit. Because we're only calling it in very discrete locations instead of calling it every frame on update. That was the part I forgot. Okay. So he attacks, then he attacks, then I get a turn, and I have no input. How did I manage to break my input system? By modifying the combat. What a stream, folks. What a stream. All right. What could I possibly have done? Okay. I can't hit enter or anything. I'm guessing my input system broke? Which is because at the very beginning of the stream we duplicated this object. Which meant we had two input systems, I think. Because I was going to refactor and add two. But we ended up deciding midway through not to. Found it. Attack. Attack. Now we can select. It's one of those days. Okay, cool. That's resolved. So we've now changed this to be a little bit cleaner. So we select a turn order. Now, next question. At the very start when we initialize, we do this logic, which is to generate the current round, generate the next round. This logic, I think, is the identical as this section. But if we call this at the very beginning, I think we can now remove that from the starting logic. Again, just reducing things down a little bit. Making things a little bit simpler. I didn't need to attach the debugger. I could have just run the game. But yeah, basically the initialization logic here, we were doing here. But now that we enter in with a ideally dead round, yeah, it should be a new turn order. And when we new this object, it should hopefully... If we never call generate at least one time, this may break actually. This needs an extra bit of logic, which is if turn order equals null, or so if it equals null, return. Otherwise, check to see if its count is equal to 0 and then return. Cool. Let's see here. I swear. So this, like, I'm hoping when I get the new PC, there won't be like these 15-second downtimes. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. Like 20 seconds to run. And apparently I hit the button twice. So this is the real reason. And also, like, oh, do you mean like Unity 2020? I did do an upgrade recently. I think about a week or two. We were originally on this project on like 2019.3, and then I did an upgrade to Unity 2020. So that, okay, so maybe that's it. But still, I can't imagine getting a faster computer will be a problem. Because even when we were on 2019, oh right, I don't have chat on. Dustin Ham is talking in Twitch chat. And that's what I'm reading off is his comments about the fact that apparently they switched to a V2 version of the asset pipeline. And the V2 is just slower right now. The start of a new system. That kind of makes sense, I guess. It's complaining. Get first or removed. Interesting. So I could revert back to 2019, but even when we were streaming with 2019 before, hey, Theory Infinity, welcome to the stream. Although you could have been lurking for a while. You are a long-time lurker. So 2019, switching back to Unity 2019 could help with some of our performance issues. But even regardless of all of that, just running in older streams when we were on 2019, things were still quite slow. So I think the PC upgrade is still very much needed. It's been 10 years, so I'm very excited. I'm not sure when I'm going to get it built, but I'm planning to buy the parts this evening. So then it's just getting the courage to put it all together. And then hopefully these streams will be a little bit more regular as well. Because one of the things that honestly has been keeping me from streaming this stuff, which this is what I want to stream. I want to stream game development. And one of the things that's been keeping me from doing it is just running OPS and streaming this stuff slows down the process. And it's kind of that literal wake up in the morning and go, do I want to stream right now? Or do I want to just code? And like one of those is going to require a bit of a headache just because of the current level of my PC. And I think my hope is that once I get this new PC, it'll remove at least one of those blockers. Because I do find myself somewhat more productive when streaming, because the simple fact of having to talk through all the logic that I'm working through just ends up like making me more focused in general. I end up being more like streamlined in my thought processes, and I also highlight issues just by talking it out aloud that I don't think I see otherwise. So I just think that streaming actually makes me better at coding too. Plus, I always have the value of going back and listening to myself. And oh boy, do I like listening to myself. What if we just went back now? Stream, Dustin Ham. Dustin Ham seems to know things. What if I just went to Unity, closed this version, switched this back to this previous version? Like, you're saying that would make things go a bit faster. Would I have to revert the project because I've opened it as a 2020 version now? If I've made changes, am I stuck in 2020? That's my question. Solid from Dustin Ham. Fantastic. It depends. Fantastic. Whoa, it got there. Minute 30. Rolling back is usually messier than upgrade. Do I have a backup? Well, we do have source tree. Which at some point... This is where I removed ATP stuff. Did I actually call out when I upgraded to 2020? Or did I just do it and push it in one of my other commits? Fantastic. One of these changes should have the package changes, because I know that there were package changes when I upgraded. Preset manager. Let's go through source tree, the most entertaining of streams. I actually don't see any changes relating to upgrade to 2020 in my source tree. Are they still in uncommitted changes? Looks like they might be. So I don't think I ever checked it in. Is that the only change there was? Was just the package dash lock, Jason? I can't guarantee there won't be bugs. Okay, that sounds like an off-stream thing. Did this finally work? It did! Holy smokes, that took like 5 minutes. Okay, so we're running the game. We're setting our round complete. We're coming into here. Turn order is equal to 0. So this should return that it needs to copy. Which it can't copy anything. So it's going to generate... Oh, I see. What I did. Making all kinds of small mistakes today. This current round generate happens, but only one time, which is the start of the game, which we still need. We still have to generate the first round ever. Okay, it generates the first round, then we come in here, then we go forward. But if we generate the first round, it's okay. So we do need this logic. As much as I hope that we could just call this version, because we for every round after the first, we copy from the next round. We do need the first round to generate the two of them. I don't think we need to update next round view. We do, because we only do it inside of here. So yeah, we do need this logic. It's unfortunate. Because the way that we create the first set of rounds is different from the way that we do any subsequent set of rounds. Okay. So I can't reduce that. I feel like this stream has been an hour of me going, we can reduce this, reducing it, testing for 5 minutes. We can't reduce this. Okay. But I think I have a fairly good understanding at least of where we're at. So we have to generate the rounds this way. We pass in the current turn units for turn order, which I want to refactor this later, but honestly the way this is going, I'll probably do that in another stream or off camera at a later point, because I don't like the way this is done. But we basically pass in a list of units, then we take that list of units, we do some randomization, using some fancy, and then we have some other ways of getting and removing. Okay. So let's leave all that alone and let's go to where I started the stream an hour ago with this class. Here we generate all of the round icons. Or sorry, we destroy all round icons we've generated and we regenerate them anew. I don't love this. In fact, I hate it. And so I want to figure out a way that if we give a turn round, instead of deleting everything and regenerating everything, ideally, we just remove anything that's been removed. But how? Do we need to save information? Or does the round icon have any data that we can determine if it's missing? What do we actually initialize a round icon with? We initialize it with a unit. And with the current round. Oh, but this isn't... that's bad naming. This isn't the same current round, like, game object. This is literally a bool to say whether or not this round icon is in the current or in the next. And we do that for... a reason, which is to generate the elemental icons. So all of this stuff is some stuff that I was adding before the stream, probably a couple days ago, to try and get this working before I realized that we were actually deleting these things every frame. But basically on AI move update, if this round icon is in the current round, then it'll show what the unit is about to do. When the unit updates, it sends an event saying, hey, this is what I'm going to do this turn. And then his corresponding round unit, his corresponding round icon on the top meter will get this message saying, hey, the unit I care about, and I'm representing his current turn, is going to do an ability. And that next ability, I will figure out whether or not it is elemental producing or elemental consuming, and I will turn on or off some indicators based off of that on myself. So that's why we have that current round. Because we need to know whether this icon is now or later. Because I don't want to show indicators for the second round. I only want to show it for the round you're currently in. Okay. So these things do have a reference to a unit. So what we could do is we could do a check instead and only delete the round icon if that round icons unit, which is currently not a public variable. Do it this way. And then we can get this guy's current unit. We can pass that into the turn order with some function we can make called has. And has can just check if the turn order contains it. God, where did we go? I hit page up by mistake. My bad. All right. Right. So pass in a unit, check to see if the turn order contains that unit. If it does, then we say that it has it. I guess I could be more consistent and just say this is contains rather than has. Has isn't a super familiar word. So we can check if turn round contains this unit. And if it doesn't contain this unit, then we terminate and remove it. Otherwise, we do nothing. Now, we also need to remove it from the images, because before we were just doing clear, but we can't do that anymore. We now need to remove this image, which may break the for loop if we do it here. So it's better to do list of game objects. Images for removal, which really should only ever be one. We do this all one at a time, but we'll do it the safe way rather than making too many assumptions within our code. And then we do the same for each here, and then we do remove the images that we had in images from removal. Okay, so now we've successfully updated the view by removing any round icons for units that are no longer in the round. Okay, but now we need to do the opposite, which is we need to add any round icons for units that are not in the round. Now, how do we handle this logic? So before we would just generate all of them, but we don't need to generate all of them now. We now need to find the ones that are missing and make those. What does that logic look like that's not terrible? We need to loop through the turn order. I think we need a list of units. That's super wordy. Let's go with that. And we need to do This is a bad name. That's what this really is. These are round icons, not images. Why is this now complaining? Did I rename it to something that was... Oh, it's just being very confused. Because I didn't finish writing this for loop down here. There we go. Okay, so we want to loop through all of the round icons. And for each round icon, we could probably also save these things as round icons instead of saving them as round icon objects. What if we did that as well? I'm refactoring within refactoring, which is going to cause some confusion, but... Okay, so anywhere that we see a game object, we now need to say round icon. Here. This should be round icon for removal. Just cleaner. Are you going to stop complaining yet? Nope. Need to replace more things. Replacing more things. Okay. And then here, instead of adding the game object that we create, let's add the round icon we expect to find on it. Okay. Now let's check whether or not... So let's loop through the turn order of units. And check to see if the get unit found round icon. So what we're doing is we're saying, hey, at the beginning we're going to say that we didn't find the round icon. Then we're going to loop through all the round icons and we're going to check to see whether or not the unit of any of the round icons we currently have generated match the unit of this turn order we're currently looping through. And if none of them get set to true, so if we don't get into any of these cases, wow, what a day. If it's not found, then it will get added to the list of units to create icons for. I still don't love it. but I think it'll work. Let's just go through this logic one more time. We loop through all of the round icons. We check to see if the turn order contains that round icon's unit. If it doesn't, then we remove it, and we flag it for removal. And then we remove it from the round icons we're storing inside of this turn order view. And then we go through and we loop through all of the units in the turn order and check to see if any of the icons represent it. And if none of them, if we didn't find any round icon that represents this unit, we add it to units to create round icons for. And then we loop through all the units that we need to create round icons for and generate its round icon. Holy smokes. I think we might have done it. But let's spend 30 minutes debugging to figure out if we actually did. This has not been one of my better streams, but thank you for sticking with me. Who we got about? Who's around? Got Red Yoshi, Dustin Ham still around, Kazikish, Theory Infinity, bunch of names I don't recognize lurking. Okay, so if I do a magic attack, lightning, thunder, attack this guy. Okay, it updates. It's updating as expected. He attacks, cool. We go to the next turn, he performs a flame slash. Okay, the turn order stuff seems to be functioning in the same way, which is great. It works exactly like it did before, but we're not regenerating all of them, which means well, it should mean something. It should mean that when we initialize this stuff, these round icons, they should be getting a message here and adding a piece of UI to them. But we're still not seeing that UI. There still might be a race condition on the events. Okay, so at this point, these three here, not these ones, not for next round. These should be mystery icons. In fact, let's do that. Let's make those mystery icons. Let's go to the round icon prefab, which is the object that we've been working with. Let's open that prefab. And then in here, let's add a... let's go to a scene view so we can actually see what we're doing. Come on. There we go. Whoa, too zoomed in. So right now we just see the portrait, but if we toggle this on, we can see this is the icon I'm trying to get to appear. But let's also, for the sake of clarity, add another piece of information in here. Let's add another image. Let's make it a lot smaller. Say like 15 by 15. And let's open Krita. So many applications, probably a bad idea. Probably could have just used Paint 3D instead of Krita, because Krita is a pretty bulky program. Well, not bulky, but it's bigger than Paint. But I got fancy recently because I've been helping Drixie with the art stuff. Sure. I've never actually created a new object. Most of the time I just use other objects. And then let's make a cool looking, amazing thing. The best thing that you guys will have ever seen. I swear. How do I delete this background? Can I just hit delete? Cut layer? New layer? Oh, it's locked. Remove. Thank you. And then let's go black. Let's choose the pixel brush. Boop, 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 boop. Whoa. Hit F1 instead of 1. Perfect. Look at that. So, no, okay, let's see. Boop, boop, boop. Even more perfect. All right, let's go with that. Export. And let's put this in the assets, JRPG, art. Let's throw it in here as a PNG. Mystery icon. What could the enemy be doing? No one knows. Mystery icon. They could be doing anything. Probably be better if it was actually in a circle, to be honest. But we don't have that time here. That kind of time here. Let's not be perfectionists. Let's be doing stuff like that. There we go. And then let's make it like mystery color. Aha, mystery color. The problem is some of these colors we represent abilities with. Green isn't one of them though. But I also don't like green. Slightly gray. Nailed it. Okay. So now, can I put this in here? We can, just for making this simpler. Mystery icon. Mystery. And then let's create a reference to that. Mystery icon. Probably spelling mystery wrong, to be honest. Alright, so now. I already wrote it to do. I'm so smart, you guys. Alright, set activity to true. Alright, cool. And then let's just turn the mystery icon off by default. So now we should see that all enemy units. And now I'm unsure whether or not they're actually going to be enemy units. Is this going to happen only on... Yes, because this is an event only on the AI selecting their move for the turn. So when the AIs take their turn, it will represent any turns they have later as a mystery. Because we don't know what they're going to do on their following round. We only know what they're going to do this round. It helps. It really does help if we actually set our references. So let's open the prefab and let's drag mystery icon into here. Okay. Now we should see mystery icon for the next round display. Okay. It shows for everyone. Did I forget to disable it by default? I did that. Okay, well, it's disabled now. Now for only enemies, you should see the mystery icon. Now for enemies, you should only see the mystery icon. Fantastic. We got there. Now we have these guys still not showing their elemental choices. Now, that could very well be possible because they're not performing elementals attacks. So they're doing an attack, and then the other one is doing an attack. So they weren't doing elemental attacks. He's doing an attack. He's doing an attack. Okay, well, you know what, buddy? You can do your attacks. At some point, you have to use an element. It's how the system works. Interesting. It's not actually copying the next turn. The new turn was... Huh. Oh, you know what it is? It's that certain enemy types don't actually use fire. There's only one type of enemy that actually does it. Let's go into the encounter selection. And then let me bring up my design data. That's the state machine, but I want to see... Show me potato salad. Game data. Save. Monsters. Cactus Orange, also known as Cactus Man, which is named after some old assets we no longer use. Right now, all enemies are using the same enemy image. People are working on that. That is something that I have... There we go. Double Cactus Man. Did you guys still decide not to use fire? No, so he was trying to use fire, he just wasn't showing the icon. Okay, so something is still going wrong with this system. There's a couple things. First off, we should be generating an icon if the enemy is using an ability that produces or consumes an element. But why doesn't it? Well, step one is to debug, and let's see if we're actually hitting the code I expect to be hitting. Okay, we enter into turn order. Good. We do some stuff with the enemies. Yeah, that's all fine. So we don't. Okay, let's get rid of all these breakpoints. Let's find the AI class where the enemy actually determines what they're going to do. Start of round. Okay, so when a round starts, the enemy chooses what action they're going to perform. Let's see what happens at that moment. I can also hard code it so that they always use fire, so that we at least guarantee that they're going to perform an action that we expect to show on the indicator. Okay, so they used fire. Okay, so he is performing a fire attack. So when he sets that ability, he posts a notification that the AI move has been updated. So when he selected fire, we should have gotten a message on the round icon indicating that that was being performed. Now, it could be a race condition. Possibly the icons have not been generated yet. Oh, one of them got in. Current round is false. Okay. Let's run that again. And I'm going to take this a little bit slower. Okay, so we expect all of the unit icons to be generated before the AI take their turns. I have no reason to believe that I've done that work, but that's what I expect to be true. So here we're generating the round icons. This has happened because we have decided to update the next round view. Now down here, we should still be updating the current round view. Okay, so we're still updating next. Okay. Now we're getting the AI taking their turns. That is because we have posted the start of a round, which is what sends off the messages to start choosing their actions. This sends off a message to the AI so that they start choosing their actions. So instead, this is an order of operations issue. We need to generate all the icons. Then once we've generated all the icons, then we need to select the next unit for turn order so that we actually update all of the round icons for these guys as well. Then we need to say that we're starting the round, at which point everything should be generated and we should be able to see the icons. So the problem is that we were saying, okay, generate all the next turn icons. Then we would update the start of the round. We would get messages for all of those next round icons showing the mystery icons turning on. And then we would generate all of the icons for this current round. Still doesn't fully explain why we're not seeing it. No, it does. It does explain it. Now these guys are going to produce fire. I'm not sold on necessarily the look at this, but that's at least a good step. But I see the next problem. The next problem is the reason that was breaking here was because the start of a round was being called, but we haven't fixed it for on every sequential round. So we still call start round here, but then proceed to update all of the other things. Now we do need to copy the current round. Lame. So we need this to happen before this, but we need this stuff to happen before we can do this. So a lame way I can do this is I can literally copy this in here, paste it, then else, and only do the second logic set here like this. Always setting action is ready, but like we're duplicating so much logic. This is all the same. It's just needing to be done slightly differently or with slightly different timing. So the other way we could do this is we could try and call start of new round at the bottom, but only if we did a round complete. So we could do bool. I don't like this a whole lot either. Let's turn caps locks off. For some reason that got hit. Round complete equals true. Oh, sorry, equals false. Now it equals true. And then at the bottom of the function, if round complete, we are now starting a new round. It's gross, but it should work. Sorry, I had chat hidden for a little bit there. Theory said, okay, now they absolutely first and only first. There's no trials before this. I'm not sure exactly what that was in relation to. I'm sorry. Although that may have been right now. Yeah. Okay. Cactus Man. So now we should see them updating. So we perform attack. We perform fire. Fire is done. We attack. We perform fire. It does flame slash. Okay, that is updating now. So on each sequential round, why am I struggling with that word? It is showing the icons properly. But this is always showing this here, and this is not matching this when we get to a new round. So something is still off here. Oh, I see, Theory, yes. That's why I was confused. Why would you even need to mention that the mystery icons were definitely there the first time? Because they totally were. Okay, so... Cool. It's getting there. We just have... So the actual thing I set out at the beginning of the stream to do, which is to show the icons on the turn order for what actions the enemies were going to do in relation to the elemental meter, that works. The problem is, turns out, maybe it's always been like this and I never noticed, we're not actually copying the next round into the current round. Not really, anyways. That's a slightly more difficult thing to figure out what's happening. I imagine debugging is the right choice. But how do we go about digging into this in some meaningful way that we can understand? Because there's going to be a lot of data here. I guess it's to look at the turn order inside of the next round and see if it matches what we're showing on the UI, but it should. Well, even just the fact that, like, we update it with the next turn order that we just generated, like, the next turn order should be updating. Unless... Unless the next turn order already contains all the icons and we never remove them, so that we never need to re-add them, so they always are just there. I see what I've done. So current round works because it is removing each icon one at a time. Pop, 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 as each unit takes a turn. And so we change the logic so that we don't regenerate the entire, like, turn view order. We only regenerate what's changed, because with the current view, we expect pop, 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 everything to be removed, and eventually to recreate all of the icons. So I think the fundamental problem is we're trying to write one update function to handle all the situations. But that's less than ideal. Some old breakpoints. I like that I figured it out before we even got into debugging. Just looking at the code, I can see what my issue is. Just remove all breakpoints. Solved. Okay. This was true. This first copy was correct. It was red, gray, yellow, gray, which is what the next turn was. The problem is we don't update it again, because all the icons are there. So where do we update next turn order? Ideally, it should only be in one spot, right? Here, and on initial creation here. We do also pass in this bool to let us know whether or not it is the current round order we're updating or the next. So we could add some special logic around that. Or we can just make two functions, I think. And one of those functions needs to work exactly the way that it used to. And one of those functions needs to work the new way. So let's grab the old way. There's been more changes, though, that we'll have to add back in as we do this. But okay, so we've got update view, update view. Let's do one that's a knit view. And then for this one, oh, shame. Yeah, we changed a bunch of stuff in here, especially like the round icon names and stuff. Okay. I think the end result function here is the same. I think we want this version of the function. We just want to run it against the turn order. Yay for auto formatting. All right, so a knit view should do the destroy everything, clear, and then just regenerate. But the update view should actually do an update. It should remove things that no longer should be there and add any things that need to be there. And I think fundamentally, if we go back to here, anytime we do an update to the next round, we need to init the view because we're basically regenerating it from scratch based off a whole new round. But for current round icon or current round view, we want to update that view, which is going to generate anything that should be there and remove anything that shouldn't. Clear as mud, bright as night. Fantastic. And I think with that, our turn order should be working. 2 hours, but really strong fundamental, I don't want to say relearning for me, but like reinforcement of how this code works. Having to talk through it all aloud, I think that we've kind of got a better understanding of how this whole turn order stuff works. I think it also highlights some issues I have with it. Like, I still don't love all the functionality, but oh. Hello, darkness, my old friend. You generated twice. Okay. Okay. Not okay. I don't know why it's doing that. It was working so well for a minute there. So it looks like it's the same sequence. It just created that sequence 2 times. Next round should just generate one list. Yeah, because this generate should create a new list, so that would clear it of any old units that were in it. Okay, so our only option here is to actually put in a breakpoint and try and look. I'm not seeing anything cursory by looking. At a cursory glance, I'm not seeing anything that immediately tells me what the problem is. So let's see if we can get more information by actually debugging. I was so ready to move on. So close and yet so far. I think this is the last bug though. And then we can call this a complete refactor. A completed refactor. Because we actually didn't change that much. We really just changed the way that the round view actually operated. Let's use some of that fire that the enemy generated to attack them with it. Let's generate some lightning. Or thunder. Which will eventually be shadow. Alright. So, here. We have the next round. The next round has been determined to have 4 units. We are now going to enter in, and we are going to go through the 4 unit icons that we have, and we are going to destroy them. Destroy them, I say! Destroy the rebels. So now this is all gone, so we should generate a new set of round icons. We destroyed the old ones. We're building some new ones. We're instantiating new icons. And this should only happen 1 time. But somehow it didn't happen. Oh, because this needs to destroy... Because this is old code. It shouldn't be doing a destroy anymore. There's a couple problems here. So we're copying and pasting from source tree, but we actually changed the code a little bit more substantially than we originally thought. So we actually need to be going through the round icons, calling terminate on them, and then deallocating the game objects. Then we need to call clear on the list, then we regenerate. We're not doing destroy anymore, because we're not instantiating the objects, we're allocating and deallocating them from a pool system. Which, if you didn't see like part 9 or something when I went over the pool system, basically we just, on load of the game, we generate a bunch of round icons under like just a bunch of game objects of them, and then we ask a manager to go, hey, I want a round icon, and the game object pool manager goes, cool, I'll give you one of the hundreds I made at the start of the game. And then when we deallocate it, instead of destroying it, we just return it back to the pool. We say, hey, we're done with this thing, you can have it back, game pool manager. Game object pool manager, and the pool manager just goes, cool, I'll put it back in the bin, we'll just give it a little bit of dusting and someone can reuse it later. And so basically you just keep cycling through those. I don't think it's actually 100. I think I made like, I want to say like 20 or something, but I just make 20 of them at the start of the game, and we just kind of reuse them over and over again rather than having to generate those every single time. Okay, thunder. Fire. Hit him back with his own flames. Yes, produce more flame for me. So I might hit you again. Okay, that looks like that worked. I actually wasn't paying attention. I was playing pretend. So then this should go enemy, red, yellow when we finish this turn. Yep. Enemy, red, yellow. And now it should be red, enemy, yellow. Cool. Red, enemy, yellow. Yep, okay. Ah, remember I just said something about the icons getting reused? Well, we cycled through all of them and now we gave it back. When we terminate these objects, though, we need to do cleanup. And one of the things we've now added that we have to clean up or account for is the disabling of the mystery icon. When we terminate a object, which is essentially brushing it off for reuse later, we need to make sure that we disable the mystery icon so that it doesn't show up on player icons when we reuse them as player icons. Cool. Now we're done. As long as that worked, which I'm pretty confident it should have, we should be done and done. Sweet. All right. Give it a couple rounds. And while we're kind of moving through the actions and mostly watching this top meter for the turn order, let's talk about the next big project. Actually, it's almost 2 hours. YouTube videos don't like going over 2 hours on streams. So I think might be a good idea to break for a couple minutes and then come back to do the next stream as a separate part. Just to kind of break up the stream a little bit instead of doing one long one. Yeah, this all seems to be working though. Yeah, when we come back in a few minutes, we're going to take a look at refactoring these unit pieces. These guys are currently linked in a way that is kind of garbage. And it'd be neat if that wasn't true. That was really cool. I ate his fire so he couldn't eat the fire, and then he had to do a basic attack instead. That is something that I'm working towards. A lot of this is around that eventual goal. Sweet. Okay, cool. We won a battle. Yeah, let's stop here. When we come back after a small break here in a few minutes, I'm going to grab some water, maybe a quick snack. When I restart back up, we're going to take a look at refactoring the way that we hold units. The way that we do this units for turn orders and units is kind of clunky with the companion stuff we've added. The whole like having 2 sets of abilities for the companion, the way we load that, all of it's just real bad. So I want to change it. I want to change it, and I'll get into explaining what exactly we're doing, and maybe even drawing some pretty pictures after this small break. So I'll be right back. Stick around if you want. If not, if I don't see you later, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate the people chatting, and I'll see you in a bit.